Hello, YouTube. Welcome back to the dungeon. We have another video from the Critical Drinker. He says, why this is the greatest Lord of the Rings scene ever. And it seems to be from Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers. And it's, I believe, the scene of the, oh, what are they called? The Rohirrim coming down the mountain towards the orcs at Helm's Deep. So let's see what the Critical Drinker has to say about it.
Ever have a movie experience so epic that you just know you're never going to see anything quite like it again? Like you'll never quite reach
every now
that
and
same
then.
emotional high you felt in that special moment? Well, probably not so much in recent years, but by golly, there was once a time
definitely
when
not
going
recently.
to a movie theater meant a chance to experience pure magic and wonder on the big.
I've never understood the appeal of 3D movies. I've watched a couple of 3D movies and it's like, man, I would have rather have just watched this normal shit. Fuck these glasses, dude.
Screen imaginable. And I don't think any movies captured that feeling quite like The Lord of the Rings, Peter Jackson's magnum opus, the epic trilogy to end all trilogies.
That trilogy is just so damn good.
Filmmaking balanced out by mature storytelling and an abiding respect for the source material instead of some narcissistic filmmaker determined to put their own stamp on it. Films that would be literally impossible to make at any other time before or since. And because the trilogy is getting its 25th...
They wouldn't have been able to do it before that, and in today's world where all of Hollywood is trying to push an agenda, they absolutely would not be able to have made it since they made it. So they made the Lord of the Rings trilogy at the perfect time.
Anniversary re-release. Oh my god, I'm old. People have been taking to social media and sharing some of their favourite moments and scenes that have stuck with them for the past quarter of a century. And well, I felt like it's damn well time I chimed in with mine, because it's all too easy to spend your days bitching and moaning about the state of modern entertainment here on YouTube. Rightly so in most cases, but it's also nice to be reminded once in a while that yes, movies and TV shows can conjure up some pretty fucking incredible experiences. And well, this right here is mine. This may be one of the greatest and most epic scenes, not just in the Lord of the Rings trilogy,
epic,
not just in fantasy, but in all of cinema. It is fucking perfection. The build-up, the stakes, the character moments, the choreography, the soundtrack, the culmination of every story thread and character arc and decision that's been woven throughout the whole movie.
Ride for wrath, ride for ruin.
This is payoff on the grandest scale imaginable, and watching this moment unfold in a cinema screen 24 years ago was an experience that'll stay with me for the rest of my life. And
could you imagine being one of the actors that got to play the orcs and everything? That would probably be the role I would want to be, just an extra as one of the orcs.
So I want to try to explain why I think it works so well, because a great scene is more than just what happens in that one moment. It's everything that led up to it. Everyone involved,
it's the build-up,
everything it means for the wider.
The scene would completely fall flat if they didn't have some sort of a build-up to it. Them getting trapped in the cave, them barricading themselves behind the walls, and then deciding to ride out and meet them head on. And remembering Gandalf say, "Look to the east, where the sun was going to rise." Everything had to build up to it, otherwise the scene would completely fall flat.
Story. So let us explore it together, shall we? First, the setup. The scene takes place at the culmination of the Battle of Helm's Deep at the end of the Two Towers, which, by the way, is my favourite battle of the trilogy, but that's a story for another day.
Easily the best battle of the entire series was Helm's Deep.
Anyway, the forces of Rohan, led by King Theoden, are under siege by an army of Uruk-hai sent by Saruman to wipe them out.
Just
With most of their horsemen
dispersed
across the country, Theoden has no choice but to lead his depleted forces to the fortress of Helm's Deep, which should at least give them a fighting chance against the vastly superior army. As Aragorn and the others...
it's the same concept as 300. You narrow the direction in which your enemy can come from. You reduce the numbers in which they can approach at one given time, and you start picking them off. So even though they're vastly outnumbered, they were able to continue the battle. So it makes logical sense to be at Helm's Deep.
Head to the refuge, Gandalf leaves in search of Eomer, who led most of his men away after being dismissed by Wormtongue. It's established very clearly that Theoden and his men are completely outclassed in this battle. Their army consists mostly of old men and boys conscripted into service, hastily armed with ancient weapons and dented armour. Relics of past wars, barely fit for purpose now. They know there's no real hope of victory. All they can really do is hold out as long as possible and hope that Gandalf can get to them in time. On the other hand, there's the army of Uruk-hai. Massive, powerful, overwhelming in number, and composed...
I think another big reason why this is my favorite battle is the armor for the Uruk-hai. The Uruk-hai look uniform in stature, in appearance with their armor, where you look at like the battle outside of Gondor. All those orcs look like they were just in rags and rusty armor. There was nothing uniform about them. Just they looked like goblins almost. But the Uruk-hai looked powerful, strong, and a uniform army.
Of the biggest, strongest, and most fearless orcs the world has ever seen. An enemy that burns and destroys everything in its path, that doesn't care about casualties and absolutely won't stop until...
I'm not gonna lie. If I get the chance to purchase an armor from the series, I totally want to. That armor just looks sick. I wouldn't even wear it. I would just put it up on a mannequin and have it as a decoration. I think that armor is dope.
It achieves its mission. This isn't an army of invasion or conquest, it's an army of annihilation.
Yeah,
if Helm's
pure
Deep
destruction.
Falls, Rohan will die. As far as stakes go, it doesn't get much higher than that. Secondly, the characters. Theoden is a man with the weight of the world resting on his shoulders, an old king in his twilight years whose mind was slowly poisoned by his chief advisor, who allowed his kingdom to fall into decline and his armies to fade away.
Well, not just his chief advisor. He was actually being manipulated and brainwashed like a puppet by a fucking wizard.
Son was killed in the fighting without him even knowing about it. A man who was barely saved by Gandalf, who wakes up at last only to find his country under siege and the fate of his people balanced on a knife edge. He knows that his time is almost up, that this might be his last battle, but he's determined to go down fighting. Balancing him out is Aragorn, a man who struggled to lead the Fellowship ever since Gandalf fell in Moria, whose every decision seems to have led to disaster.
I mean, to be fair to Aragorn, the only person since Gandalf to fall was Boromir, and Boromir was losing his mind to the fucking ring. After that, it was basically the Fellowship had dissolved into multiple groups, and the group he was leading was doing just fine.
And who barely even made it here himself. Just as this could be Theoden's last battle, it's also Aragorn's first. He's never led an army into battle before, he's never commanded troops or issued orders, but even he knows that their position is almost hopeless. Again though, just like Theoden, he's resolved to fight until the bitter end.
Then I shall die as one of them.
This was
Thirdly,
some prime acting by all
the
of them.
Uruk-hai throw themselves against the fortress like a wave. This isn't a carefully coordinated assault with precise maneuvering and tactical deployments. It is a brute force sledgehammer attack that relies...
Nah, it's World War I Russian meat wave tactics. That's all it was with the orcs.
On two things: overwhelming power and sheer weight of numbers. J.R.R. Tolkien lived through the horrors of the First World War, and he saw for himself the human wave attacks that sacrificed hundreds of thousands of lives to gain a few miles of territory.
Yeah,
and this battle is
it's such terrible tactics. But I mean, even like Russian war doctrine is quantity is a quality in and of its own. So I mean, primitive, not very smart Uruk-hai, yeah, in tens of thousands. Yeah, that checks out.
perfect reflection of that. Bit by bit, the exhausted and wounded defenders are forced back into the citadel. The orcs have taken thousands of casualties by this point, but it doesn't matter to them. They don't care about losses, all they care about is victory, and it's almost in their grasp.
What can men do against such reckless hate?
This is an enemy the likes of which Theoden and his people have never faced before. An army that will not stop, that can't be daunted and won't show them any mercy. A relentless...
That's just it. The Uruk-hai were just bent on victory. They weren't trying to, prevent losses. All they knew is go in, kill them all. Don't worry about anything else. Where the elves and the people of Rohan were just bent on survival.
This machine of war that even human courage can't stand against. With all hope seemingly lost, Aragorn suggests one last suicidal charge, trying to buy time for the women and children to escape, knowing they won't make it far but determined to try anyway.
Ride out and meet them.
For death and glory.
For Rohan.
People often point to Theoden's speech at the Battle of the Pelennor Fields as the best
That
one
was
of the
a
trilogy,
very good
but
speech,
for me,
too.
it's this one right here.
Fell deeds awake.
Now for wrath, now for ruin, and the Red Dawn!
It's not eloquent or heroic, it doesn't inspire thoughts of victory, it's the last words of a man facing the end, knowing there'll be no one left to sing songs about him when it's all over. A man whose only goal now is to fight and die.
I do think that his speech in the third movie was better than this one, but this one was nice, short, sweet, and simple, and to the point.
And fight they do, their charge carrying them all the way down the causeway into the very heart of the enemy army, where they're sure to be overwhelmed and wiped out in a matter of seconds. That's when it
By all
finally
means, they should have,
happens.
especially
The
with
thing
those,
Aragorn had
with all
pinned
those
all
orcs
his
carrying
hopes on,
pikes.
the thing we as the audience had all but forgotten about in the chaos and disasters of the battle. Fuck yeah, bro. And
Hell
so we
yeah.
come down to it at last. Gandalf arriving at the last moment to save the day with the sun rising behind him. Eomer and his men
This
riding
part
to the
right
aid
here
of
was
their king.
epic.
And
The
between
horses
them,
just
an army
rolling
of
up.
orcs, battered and depleted after a whole night of bloody carnage, but still very much in the fight and determined
this
to
is
win
giving
at
me
any
goosebumps.
cost. Even now, the situation
I haven't
seems
watched The
hopeless.
Lord of the Rings
music
in
you're hearing in
years
this
at
moment
this
isn't
point.
triumphant, it's tragic. It's preparing you for a brave
I actually
but
am dying to
futile
watch
last
it now.
stand. The riders of
Maybe I'll
Rohan
watch
seem to
that
be
tomorrow
charging
or something.
straight into a wall of spears, hurling themselves towards certain death. Horses, swords, and human courage thrown helplessly against a machine of war. And I say machine because that's exactly what they're up against.
Yeah,
Pay
'cause the
attention
orcs
to the
are literally
Uruk-hai
a
here,
machine.
The way they march
They're
in lockstep, their brutal
NPCs.
industrial looking armor, the sound their boots make as they trample the ground. That is the sound of machinery right there.
For
and it
real.
fits in perfectly with the experiences Tolkien drew from when he wrote these scenes. World War I was the first truly industrialized war, the first war of mass production, where machinery and technology was more powerful than human courage. It left him with a deep mistrust of technology and industry and the destruction of nature and tradition, and you can see that woven throughout his writing, and it's perfectly encapsulated in this scene right here. And at the last second, when the two armies are about to clash, it turns out that nature itself lends a helping hand.
That's
Again,
a
people point
great
to the
storytelling
ride
with
of
having
the
the
Return of
sun
the King as their greatest
be
moment
the
in
reason why
trilogy,
that
but for me,
that
it's
charge
this.
succeeded.
This scene takes you on the kind of emotional roller coaster that few other movies have ever been able to match. Even watching it and describing it right here brings a lump to my throat because it's that fucking good. In a trilogy bursting at the seams with poignant, epic, awe-inspiring moments, this for me is the greatest one of them all. Even now, a quarter of a century later, this scene still...
A quarter of a century later. Oh my god. I'm so old! I can't believe this is 25 years old. Jesus Christ.
gets to me, and I'm very grateful I got to see it when it happened.
No shit.
Anyway, that's all I've got for today. Go away now.
Going away. Oh, that's another great video by Critical Drinker. That scene is epic, and I was actually getting goosebumps just from the replays of that. Anyway, if you haven't seen Critical Drinker, go check them out. He makes some really good good reviews.